Yup, go figure, another Vancouver Canucks and Edmonton Oilers related video. This time it's going to come from a different place, where the other videos have talked about how the Oilers offer sheet affects the Vancouver Canucks, where we've discussed Artur Silayev speaking out about the Edmonton Oilers. We have gone over many Oilers-Canucks things, but this one might be one of the more direct conversations that we could have. Let's go out there to an article published by Patrick Johnson on The Province from earlier yesterday. Could the Vancouver Canucks help the Edmonton Oilers out of their offer sheet pickle? Might ex-Vancouver giant Brett Kulak be a Vancouver Canucks target now that the Edmonton Oilers are apparently resigned to trading him? Now, the immediate instinctual response that I saw many people displaying in regards to this post and this idea, this article, was, hell nah, dude. No, why would the Vancouver Canucks want to help out Edmonton of all teams? Like, seriously, talk about getting a guy like Brett Kulak, who isn't really, amazing, going out there and replacing the minutes of a guy like, let's say, a Carson Soucy or a guy like Derek Forbort. The magnitude as to how much you are upgrading the lineup by making a trade like this is very small. Kulak is not that big of an upgrade in comparison to some of these guys, and if you make this trade, you help out Edmonton, you allow them to save themselves from the St. Louis Blues. Why would you do that? Why would you help Edmonton out of all teams to make things work? I saw a lot of people reacting in a very immediate and big way to this article, saying, no, I wouldn't do this. Why would the Canucks go out there and help Edmonton by getting Brett Kulak of all people? But alas, let's go out there and read what this article says, see PJ's point of view, and try to rationalize things here as well. Because, of course, if there is an opportunity for the Vancouver Canucks to improve their hockey team, Patrick Allvin should be looking at it, right? Any sort of improvement, no matter how big, how small, any sort of an improvement would be worth acknowledging its existence. Correct? So, let's go out there and read what PJ says. It starts out by talking about the entire Oilers situation with Holloway and Philip Broberg. To keep even one of them, the Oilers are going to have to make a roster decision. They just don't have any choice, even if they're able to start the season with Evander Kane on the LTIR because of sports hernia surgery. Kane on the LTIR would buy them some cap relief, but they would still either have to give up one of Holloway or Broberg or make another trade to keep both. Post-media insider Bruce Garriock reported Thursday that the Oilers are prepared to trade one of Kulak or Ceci to clear enough cap space to keep one or both of Holloway and Broberg. Trading both would mean Kane to the LTIR consideration wouldn't matter, not to mention the fact that putting Kane on the LTIR would only buy them short-term relief, since once he's healthy, activating Kane would only put them back in the same pickle they're in now. So trading both is the preference, and to no surprise, Garriock reports there are a few teams interested in grabbing one of these now surplus NHL defensemen. Now, when it comes to the Brett Kulak idea, this is where you start thinking about Kulak as a player, you start thinking about what he means. I know for my Canadiens fans out there watching this video, Kulak is a name of pretty good luster in Montreal Canadiens fan base lore. Not only was he fine when he was in the Montreal Canadiens system, but he also was involved in the trade which inevitably landed the Canadiens Lane Hudson. So I think Kulak has more of an aura-like figure status amongst the Canadiens fan base right now. But Kulak for the Oilers is just a defenseman, 16 points in 82 games played this most previous year. He had 8 points in 25 games in the playoffs when the Oilers went to the finals. And Kulak was racking some pretty big minutes. He also had 3 assists in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Florida Panthers. So he's a pretty good guy, not terrible, but it's Brett Kulak. I don't want to go out there and crap on the guy or diminish the work that he's done, but it's Brett Kulak. I don't think anybody's looking at him and his dollar amount, $2.75 million, and saying that it's the most incredible bargain-saving deal out there. He's just a guy, right? Going back over to the article, this is what PJ writes. The Vancouver Canucks could offer up an alternative. Rather than demanding a draft pick, they could ask Edmonton to take on the Tucker Poolman contract. Poolman hasn't played since January 2023 because of migraines, and he isn't expected to play again. If the Oilers were to pick up Poolman in the deal, they could park his contract on the LTIR. In exchange, you think the Canucks might be interested in one of Kulak or Ceci, but more so Kulak. Okay, now that is a very intriguing path. Tucker Poolman, of all people, potentially being a guy that could spark some sort of interest in a trade here. Interesting. Let's read more about Kulak first before we dive into Poolman. The former Vancouver Giant has built a steady NHL career, a good skater who plays smart hockey in his own end, showing enough puck savvy to be a depth contributor on offense. He would be a marginal upgrade over to third pair Derek Forbort, and he's clearly an upgrade over Noah Juulsen. And to add Kulak to the roster, they would have to send Juulsen to the minors anyway. That move would create $500,000 in cap space, not enough to add a player, but unused, that space would accrue over the course of the season. And the more you save up, the more space you have at the trade deadline to spend on reinforcements, yada yada yada, that makes sense. You know, I still don't really buy it. I don't really know if Kulak is going to be that much of an upgrade over a guy like Derek Forbort that you would need to go out there and help Edmonton by giving them some huge salary cap relief to make this work. I mean, of course, looking to improve your team helps, but if you are improving the the Edmonton Oilers, a divisional rival, to such a magnitude by making this trade, I mean, Tucker Poolman is making $2.5 million a year up until the end of this season, so that's kind of the relief that the Oilers could very much use. Poolman could help in re-signing a guy like Dylan Holloway. The contracts are very similar. And then if you're able to trade away one of the other defensemen on the team whilst putting Evander Kane on the LTIR, you could potentially save Broberg too. Who really knows? I don't know how the math works on that. There's got to be some Puckpedia.com calculator tool that you could use to make this work. But either way, from the Vancouver point of view, I just don't know if this move is as big of a needle mover to make it worth it for the Canucks to help out Edmonton in such a big way. I think that PJ's idea makes sense. Like, in theory, everybody benefits, right? And for the Vancouver Canucks, they would need to send another guy like a Noah Juulsen down, which could save some cap, and you could debate whether or not that's really as necessary as PJ is arguing it would be to getting another guy at the trade deadline this upcoming year. I mean, if the Canucks save $500,000 of cap space per day, pretty much, like, there's a mathematical way to work it out. That's not really how it is. I'm just kind of spitting here. But if you have $500,000 of cap space available to you and you keep that open throughout the year, it will give you some significant spending ability by the end of the season, because you would have saved $500,000 a day pretty much. So there are benefits here, but the question is whether or not it would actually be impactful enough to make the price of helping out Edmonton actually worth it. Now, PJ does right at the end here. This advantage isn't exactly something the Oilers would want to hand to Vancouver, even if taking Tucker Poolman's dead contract in exchange helped them manage their own cap situation. So you can imagine Edmonton asking for a bit of a sweetener. Would Vancouver accept such a deal? Probably. After all, you rate a trade based on which team gets the best player, and quite obviously the Canucks would get the better player in this scenario. So there is a little bit more that PJ writes about. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check this article out yourself. It did kind of get Canucks social media up in a blaze in a little bit, and I wanted to respond to some of these ideas in this video. So, Kulak to Vancouver for Tucker Poolman, eh? Interesting. I do not think that it's worth it, but it would improve the team. Just by how much? That's the question, in my opinion at least. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canucks potentially helping out the Edmonton Oilers. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.